Well, tomorrow marks the beginning of Holocaust Memorial Day. It's a time to remember the 6 million Jewish lives lost during the Second World War.
Taking place on the 27th of January each year, the date marks the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz, the largest Nazi death camp.
Well, joining us this morning live from the factory where Memorial Day candles are made is Holocaust survivor Stephen Frank. Stephen, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It's a really important day. It's absolutely imperative we remember it. What are your thoughts on such an important day?
Terribly important. It's been a pretty grim year this year, and last year wasn't much worse either. People don't seem to forget, or people forget, should I say, the horrors of what happened in the 1939-45 war, the Holocaust. And it wasn't just 6 million Jews. I might just like to add, there were others who died too, like Jehovah's Witnesses and gypsies and others who didn't match up to the sort of standard that the Nazis wanted to promote in the world. And since then, the world has learned very little. We've had all these genocides in Rwanda and in Darfur and in Cambodia, to name but a few, and in China and in Myanmar. Nobody seems to learn from what happened in the Second World War. And that's a terrible tragedy, because there's no victors here. There's only misery and pain results from all this fighting and this hatred.
You talked about that need for us not to forget the horrors of the Holocaust. You certainly don't forget them, Stephen. You were a young boy in a concentration camp, and you use those experiences now to talk to others, to educate young people. Just tell us a little bit about your experience.
Right, well, I now give talks. I'm not far off 950 talks now in the 26 years that I've been giving talks ever since I retired. And you might wonder, why on earth did I give the talks at all? And the main reason for that is when I retired, like most people when they retire, they look back and they think, what have they done in their lives? And I think, well, what have I done in my life? Not a great deal. I did an ordinary job in an ordinary place. And I thought, why should I have been alive to survive the Holocaust? After all, the Theresienstadt where I ended up, there were 15,000 children went through that place, and only 100 of us survived. And why one of those survivors should be me? And that's always stuck in my mind right up to retirement. And then one began to learn that here in this country, they started to educate people about the Holocaust. And they wanted survivors to come and talk about their experiences in schools. And that's when I started doing it. And I've done about nearly 950 talks in all sorts of educational and other organizations during that time.
You witnessed brutality and death on an unimaginable scale at such a young age. 3 different concentration camps, Stephen.
That's right.
And yet you still managed to find hope out of your experience, the hope from those who looked out for each other and those that survived.
That's absolutely correct. I think that's one of the joys, I think, of being a child, if you like, who survived. The adults were the ones who were worrying about, would we be going off to the gas chambers or on a transport east tomorrow? The children just thought about today and how we were getting on. Were we hungry or were we not hungry? Could we play? Could we not play? I mean, I feel a bit like, my parents' generation swam in a sea of blood. We just floated in it, and we were lucky enough to be washed ashore.
Stephen, extraordinary. Very quick question, if I may. Can you ever forgive?
Can I ever forgive? That's a very difficult question to answer. I think the answer to that is you have to forgive in the end, because if you don't, this hatred that's built up about what's happened to you, it builds up and it builds up. And hatred, to me, is like the cancer of the mind. And if you continue to hate, it will just destroy you as well as the people you actually hate. There has to become a time when you have to try and reconcile what has happened to you and get the hatred out of your system.
Stephen, very
there is
powerful.
No room
very
for
powerful
hatred
indeed.
in my heart.
Stephen Frank, thank you very much indeed.